Okay. I've been doing a lot of chat with some friends, family who are all Rangers fans, and I was quite surprised that they were not too happy with the appointment of Barry Ferguson. Now, I'm not a Rangers man myself. Hands up. Watch the Premier League a lot more than I do the Scottish League because I support Liverpool and have done my whole life. But obviously, living here in Scotland, you're around it and you're a part of it, and you hear the chat. And obviously, a lot of it is to do with Rangers and Celtic, the old firm, who are always at the top of the table and kind of battling it out. And yeah, I was just surprised about the Barry Ferguson comments. I thought, to me, from the outside in, it made a load of sense just to get to the end of the season. I know he's not a manager. I know he's not had a great track record, but I'm thinking, for where you are and where you're at, just to get to the summer. I didn't mind it from the outside in, but it didn't seem like a lot of the Rangers fans that I know anyway have. So I just had a wee thought process, and I wanted to have a little look because obviously, as we know, Rangers kind of go bust and they go down to League Two, and I wanted to have a little look at just on transfer market just to see how they've been since they've gone down, right? And then since come back up, how many managers have they had? What's it looked like with the signings they've made? you know, I don't want to dive too far into this, excuse me, but how much money have they brought in from the signings, maybe compared to Celtic, and also more so really who the signings have been and the impacts that they've had. Because in Scotland, if you're Rangers or Celtic, if you're not first, you're last. But as we can see from this season, already alone, I mean, we're sitting at we've played 29 games. Rangers are in second, right? They're on 59 points. They are 16 points behind Celtic, but then the gap between Rangers, who are second, and Hibs, who are third, is then what, another 10, 13, 14, 15, 16 points. So you're sitting in second with nothing really to play for other than the Europa League, which we'll get into. So let's go with it. I wanted to just start with Rangers coming back up. So they go down. The whole thing happens with the finances in 11-12, and they start off the season 2012-13 in League Two, right? I did want to point out just before that, so 2008, 2009, all the way through to 2010, 2011, they do three in a row. They do three in a row under Walt Smith. So they finish off that kind of era of Rangers with three league title wins and then end up finishing second. It says McCoy is the manager. I can't remember if he managed the whole season or if something happens with Walter Smith, I think, and McCoy then has to take over. So they get three in a row, right? So and I was wanting to have a look and just see where they were from that point on. So that's 2010, 2011. They win the league. They go down. I'm not going to dive into all that. They eventually get themselves back up. In the start of the 16-17 season as the first season back in the Premiership, right? So they come third there. That's under Pedro. And they come in 67 points, finishing in third place in the 16-17 season. So that's where they start from. They come up and they finish third on 67 points. Aberdeen have a hell of a season. They come second on 76. Celtic absolutely have an incredible season, 106 points, scoring 106 goals. They're absolutely flying, right? So Pedro comes in, they come third. They then move on to Graham Murray. They get themselves back up to second. And then this for me is a big era in this kind of time period since they've come up is when Stevie G comes in, because we know he eventually goes on to win it. So they have a 3 season swing time period under Gerrard, should I say, where Stevie G finishes second on 66 points, second on 67 points. But again, I want to iterate, and something I want to talk about in this is it felt like something was building. It felt like something was happening to Rangers under Steven Gerrard. There was the emotion there. Everything was just kind of starting to click. And they go on and they end up winning the league title in 2021, and the COVID season hits, they win it, and they finish on 89 points, right? So I wanted to quickly just look through the leagues and just to talk about where they've come. So as I said, in the first season they come up, they finished third on 67 points, right? We move into 17-18. They come third. Celtic win the league on 82 points, so they finish 12 points behind Celtic, right? So Celtic massively dip off after that 100-plus season, and Rangers are getting a little closer to them in 12 points, second season back in. We then move into 18-19. Rangers now get themselves back up to second, and they finish 9 points behind Celtic. So they're closing the gap again a little bit as it's going. You can feel something coming. The gap's getting a little closer and closer, right? Stevie G's just started to take over there. We then move into 2019 and 20. Again, Rangers come second on 67 points, and Celtic come top on 80. So there's a 13-point gap. You can see there it's Motherwell who finished third on 46 points. That's mental. That gets you third place. Sorry, that's not even after the split, is it? Or maybe that's because COVID stops it in that little part of the season. So we come into the season. Rangers do it right. They end up finishing on 102 points. They don't lose a single game under Steven Gerrard in 2021, and they go on and they finally get that league title after kind of coming back up and bouncing themselves back up through it. So yeah, very very interesting from thereafter, right? So if we then move into 21-22, obviously Gerrard leaves and Van Bronckhorst comes in. League-wise, it's tight. Celtic only win it by 4 points. Rangers are second and Celtic finish on 93. So there's a 4-point swing. You've lost the league title. You're probably a little unhappy at that, but you're still massively in the mix. Hearts come third on 61. There's a massive improvement there on the team in third place. So still in the mix, 21-22. Get to 22-23. Again, Celtic have a great season. They come on 99 points. Rangers get 92 points. You can't really complain too much about that. So you finish, 7 points off them. Again, it's not great. You've not won the league title. I know that's the kind of whole thing at Rangers and Celtic. But you're 7 off it. So you're well within the mix, right? We then come to 23-24. Last season, Rangers again second, this time under Clement, 85 points. Celtic win it on 93. So 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, excuse me, my maths is absolutely horrendous. 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 points, yeah. So they finish 8. So again, not great. You're not winning it. Understand Rangers, the job is to win, but you're in the mix. You're 8 points off it. You get to this season now, and I mean, Celtic have been good, and we're going to get into the signings and stuff like that. But we've got 9 games to go, and there's a 16-point gap. So Barry Ferguson coming in, obviously just lost to Motherwell. Excuse me, we'll have a drink. Obviously just lost to Motherwell. They'll gain points, but that gap's probably going to stay that, if not get bigger. So a huge drop-off, a huge drop-off, and bouncing backwards, which is not good. I wanted to get into the cups, right? Because I had a little look, right? Okay, we know Rangers have come down. They've tried to build themselves back up against Celtic. We know Celtic are doing really well. How have Rangers done in the cups, right? How have they done in the cups? So let's just go down and start with the Scottish Cup. So as I said, let's take it from 16-17, where they come back up. They hit the semi-finals, right? I'm not going to go through every season and get in there. They win it in 23-24. Rangers won it last year against Aberdeen. They beat them 1-0. But they've won one Scottish Cup since 16-17. Right? Since 16-17, they've won one Scottish Cup. They've made 1, 2, 3, 4 finals out of that. So I was actually expecting more. I know it's probably 50-50 between Rangers and Celtic, but I was expecting a little more. Have a little look just at the... Sorry, that was a League Cup, by the way, that I'm talking about. We then get to the Scottish Cup. So again, if we get to 16-17, Rangers are semi-finals. Rangers win it in 21-22. Again, one Scottish Cup since coming back up again. I know it's typically split about 50-50 between the two, but one Scottish Cup and one League Cup in the time that they've come up, I was quite surprised by. Hope this is all right. It's all in transfer market, so can only go based off of that. So that was really surprising. And I know one thing that's been good for Rangers as of recent years, which again you got to take as a positive, is the Europa League. So I had a little look at that too, So 18-19 they don't make it out the group stage. 19-20 and 2021 they get knocked out in round of 16 by Bayern Leverkusen and then Slavia Prague. And then 21-22 is the season they go on to have that really, really good European run under Van Bronckhorst. Managed to get to a couple of those games, funny enough, and they lose to Frankfurt on pens, right? So that's huge. But if you then look at the season after, get knocked out by Benfica in the round of 16 again, and they're about to play Fenerbahce on Thursday, come in the first leg of the round of 16, which is not going to be easy against Mourinho. So, yeah, again, a final in there, and which is great. I think if you think of where they've been, it's huge. And by the way, I want to make it very clear in this video, I'm not having a go at Rangers. I actually would love to have a lot of comments on this video and discussions from Rangers fans in the clips. Really about like, what do you do to catch Celtic? Like, what are you aiming for right now, and how are you feeling? Because realistically, you're gonna come second so easily. You know, the other teams in the league just don't have it. There was a chat of Aberdeen this year. People thought Hearts might do it before the season started. That's not panned out. Aberdeen have dropped off. So I'm just wondering, like, what are you wanting? What do we need to see from Rangers? And I know the answer is that we'll beat Celtic, but it feels like the gap's actually getting bigger, not smaller. So that's kind of the reason for the video, and I just wanted to look into everything and show you what it looks like here. So that's the cup run. Let's have a little look at the transfers, because I also did think that this was interesting too. If you look at the transfers, and I want to just quickly go, we'll zoom through it. I don't want to make this video too long. I want to go to, again, let's go to 16-17 is obviously when Rangers come up. As you can see, there's a lot of free transfers getting done. Joey Barton, Christ is in there. Jordan Rossiter, Clint Hill, Phillipe Senderos, Kranjčar, Josh Windass, and some of them do really well. Rangers in a total spend about €2 million, right? This is in euros, unfortunately, and don't actually get any money in. That's fine. If we then move to 17-18, a spend of about 10.5 million euros with a income of about 3.51. If you just have a look at some of the signings that season, it's Ryan Jack, it's obviously Alfredo Morelos, who does very, very well. Graham Dorrans comes in. Again, Rangers fans will know this more deeply than me. Bar Morelos and Jack. Jason Cummins comes in, Russell Martin, but Bar Morelos and Jack, I don't know. I don't remember any of those guys, right? They don't make a lasting impact on me. And like I say, I don't watch the Scottish games religiously, but I'm pretty much in it week by week and being on top of it, right? So that's two signings there. 18-19, spend a total of 11.888 million and bring in 3.69 million euros. If we just have a little look at who you bring in, it's Connor Goldson, been a great signing, important and kind of winning the title. This is Stevie G, right? So then you've got Barisic comes in. You've got Kyle Lafferty, Glenn Kamara, who I've seen live a few times, very good. John Flanagan, Scott Arfield, McGregor comes back. They get Defoe. Ryan Kent comes in on loan. So that's a good window. And they spent a little bit of money, and that really probably is a really good window, and that probably is what 2 seasons later does boost them to the league title, right? You then look at 19-20, you've spent just shy of 12, you've not brought too much in, 678k. Again, you're trying to get back up there, I get it. You buy Kent for 7, you buy Hollander 3.5, you get Hadji on loan, Joe Rebo for a free, Stephen Davis for a free, Jordan Jones, Shea Ojo, there's guys like that in there that come into Rangers. So again, add into the team, plus signing Kent on a full deal that Gerrard's trying to build, that eventually then goes and wins the league title in this season, where you spend again just shy of 12 and you bring in about $1 million, right? So you've got Roof that gets signed for $1 million. Yeah, you can say that's been a hit. Hadji's been decent. Cedric Itten, was all right for a little bit, I guess. Scott Wright, you've been Balogun comes in, Calvin Bassey comes in, guys like that. So that's the season that you win the league. So you spent about 12 million. So you can see you're spending more than you're bringing in terms of signings. I'm not talking about Europe and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into that, but I just wanted to look at the signings, okay? So that's 2020, 2021. We then go into 21-22. It's spending about 4 mil and actually making a profit of 15. You sell Nathan Patterson pretty much as your money that comes in is 15 million from Everton. You got the likes of Aaron Ramsey coming on loan, Sakala comes in, Lundstrom comes in on a free, you get Diallo on loan for United, who I know doesn't do too well. So again, starting maybe not to have too many hits in here, right? But again, as we've seen from the league table, don't do too shocking. The gap's still about there. 22-23, it's a budget you've sold you've spent just about 18 million, but you've actually brought in 32 million because you sell Bassey, Aribo, Cedric Itten. They're the ones that are bringing in the money. You buy Ben Davies from Liverpool, sheesh. You buy Yilmaz. who's actually looking all right. And a few of these other guys in here, Todd Cantwell comes in, who I guess you can argue did all right. Tillman was brilliant, coming in on loan. Suter's there, decent. So it's not a shocker. Um, we then move into this season. Sorry, no, we don't. We move into 23-24, where you spent about 17 million and you brought in about 14. That's the season you sell Kamara and Sakala. Morelos goes for a free transfer, which is a bit of a killer. You're buying the likes of Danilo and Dessers and Lammers, and all those guys that are kind of in this mix here. So just moving into this season quickly, you spend about 17 and you make about 2.95. Diamande, Barame, Proper, Czerny, sorry, probably absolute butchering that name, Connor Barron. So some of those guys in there that are all right. Again, time will tell. I would never judge people off one season signing, but the quicker you hit the ground, the better, right? So that's just looking at the transfers. And I just very, very, very want to quickly show you and ask the question again, how do you catch Celtic, right? Because if you look at Celtic, roughly in that time period, again, we're going to whiz through it. In 16-17, so we're taking it from there, they spend just shy of 10. They bring in about 3. You've got the likes of Moussa Dembele comes in from Fulham. They buy Christophe Ager. They get Scott Sinclair. There's guys like that do well. The next season, they spend 12. They bring in 1.25. Guys like Johnny Hayes, it's not the great, Edward comes on loan from PSG. It's not a great window for Celtic, that one, really. But again, they're winning leagues. But this is not a great window, and then Rangers are starting to catch them a bit. So Rangers are starting to catch them under Gerrard here after saying they've not had a great window. So we're in 18-19 now. Celtic have spent about 15, but they've brought in just over 30. You managed to buy Edward, who obviously we know goes on to be a good signing, probably the main one out of there, but you managed to do that by selling Dembele and Armstrong, right? So you're bringing in money, and this is where Celtic really, I was really intrigued and impressed with what they do. We know they've got the Champions League money coming in as well, right? So you then move into 19-20, they spend 20, they bring in 27. Can't look at too many of those as maybe being successful. Celtic fans, correct me if I'm wrong, but the big one is you managed to sell Kieran Tierney for 27 million. And this is the point we're getting into. Celtic are starting to have these players that are able to sell, and then they're able to bring the money back into the team and invest it through the Champions League money really as well, right? So we hit 2021 where Rangers win the league, Celtic spend 15, they bring in 17. Again, not too good. Probably the reason Rangers have caught them up and have gone on to win it. David Turnbull and a few of those guys coming in, but they've sold Frimpong to Bayern Leverkusen for 11 million, which is a good bit of business, and then they're able to spend a little bit elsewhere, coming back into it as they come back in and win the league now. This is kind of Ange coming in. You've spent 26 million, but you've brought in 37 million, so a profit of about 10 there. Again, you've managed to sell like Edward and Asia and Christie, those guys, and that allows you to buy like your Kyogos, and a couple of decent. Joe Hart comes in from Spurs, Matt O'Reilly comes in, Hatate comes in, so good signings there. Celtic starting to get back ahead of Rangers again. They spend about 40 million euros the season after that, and they only bring in about 14. Not a lot of selling going on there, but again, the Champions League money and league title winning money allowed them to do that. That's when they buy Jota, they buy Carter Vickers, they buy Johnston, they buy Maeda in there. So again, good bits of business, but that's the one season where they've spent a lot of money there. But again, Champions League and league money's allowed them to do that. We then get into 23-24, they spend about 26, but they profit about 46. Again, a few of these guys in there, Nicholas Kuhn, who I think is levels above the SPL, goes in there. They've bought Jota, then they've sold Jota for about 30 million, which is huge, which allows them to kind of spend that roughly money back in there, along with some other signings that they make. Ida and stuff like that comes on loan. Again, then we're talking about this season, they spend about 43 million euros, but again, they make 56 million euros. They sell O'Reilly to Brighton for about 30. Kyogo they bought for 5, they sell for 12. So they bring Jota back, they buy Ida from Norwich, they bring in Kasper Schmeichel on a free. So my point would be just a lot of clever business, and I just wanted to quickly go through it and see what Rangers fans thought. Like, how do you catch Celtic back up, and where do you go? Like, do you just kind of hang on to being second comfortably? and try and have a good run in Europe, which is difficult to do because the Europa League's getting a bit stronger now with the likes of United being in there, and there's a lot of Spurs, and yeah, there's a lot of the English teams that are pretty strong that aren't gonna win a league. So that's a good chance for them to get a route into the Champions League as well, because it's so competitive, as long with the other teams in Europe too who are going to be difficult to beat. So again, just wanted to make the video, had a look at it, thought it was interesting. Rangers fans, Celtic fans, Scottish football fans, anyone, but in particular Rangers fans, yeah, leave some comments. Let me know what you think. Again, I'm not trying to have a dig at you guys. My family, are Rangers fans alongside Hearts fans, so if anything, I want them to do well. So be intrigued to hear what everyone's thoughts are watching the video.